Did you get did you get offered, by the way, did you get offered Princess Bride? Was that an offer?
No, I auditioned.
You did?
Yeah, I auditioned for Rob Reiner and Bill Goldman.
How many times?
William Goldman. Once.
Once.
Yeah.
Did you have the English accent?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You poured it on.
Oh yeah. Just with a paintbrush and a bucket and whatever I could. Absolutely. No, it was a fun audition because it was at William Goldman's apartment on Central Park West, and I was on my way to the audition, and I remember I took a bus uptown, and I had the New York Daily News, I think it was, and on the back page was as always, the sports section. I'm a big sports fan, and I was pissed off because the Knicks had drafted a guy that I thought was a disaster, right?
Right.
And so I'm holding this paper, and for some reason, I knew the scene. I knew it, I knew what I was doing. I felt confident. And I walked in, and they both, Rob is he's just such a mensch.
Yeah.
And, he came up and he shook my hand. How you doing? Nice to meet you. How's it going? I love your acting, a wonderful career. And Bill Goldman, who is a little shy, and I said, to be honest, I'm in a really kind of bad mood because the New York Knicks just drafted Kenny Walker. And Bill Goldman immediately perked up because he's a huge Knicks fan, right? And he and I started talking about this trade. Well, I mean, this draft choice. And we talked for maybe 15 minutes. We were going on and on about the Knicks and how they'd fuck things up and they'd say that and that. And finally, Rob interrupted us and he said, excuse me, can I interrupt you guys? Would you mind reading, Chris? And I said, no, God. Of course not. And I read the scene, and after I finished, not after I finished, just the sort of penultimate line in the scene, Rob started laughing hilariously, and he's a great audience. It's one of his great talents.
Right.
And after it was over, he said that was perfect. That was just fucking fabulous. That was just great. And I realized that I played the scene very seriously because comedy's a serious business.
Yes.
Yeah. And the tone that I established in the scene was just what he was looking for, and that's what did it.
So you didn't play it up at all. Do you remember the scene? Do you remember what?
Yeah. It's where Humperdinck says to her, "I hope you'll consider me as an alternative to suicide," because she talks about how Buttercup is going to throw herself off a parapet or something. I can't remember exactly what her line was, and Humperdinck looks at her very sincerely because he can sell it. This guy. He knows how to sell it. And he says, sincerely, totally sincerely, I hope you'll consider me as an alternative to suicide. You can't play that line humorously, just as you can't, I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wife to murder, Gilder to frame for it, I'm swamped. You can't do that with, you can't consider, what's the comic timing?
Right.
You have to know what Humperdinck is after at that moment in his life.
Was there a lot of direction during the movie? Did he have direction for you, or did you, for the most part, were doing your own thing?
I think that one of the things that Rob does really well is he trusts casting. He trusts his actors. He believes strongly in casting the right people. And except for a few things, I would get some direction for Rob, and I would say, okay, and I would try it that way. And then he'd say, okay, now try it your way. And sometimes he'd take my take, and sometimes he'd take his. But that's a joy to have that kind of director.
Absolutely.
There's a moment at the end of the movie where Wesley says that they're confronting each other. And the audience knows that Wesley is severely compromised. Right, and Humperdinck is about to engage him in swordplay, and he's the world's greatest swordsman, except for, of course, Wesley and Indigo, and Wesley says, Humperdinck says to him something like, I know that you're compromised. I know that you're not. Are you bluffing? And he says, drop that sword. And he sticks his sword out, and Humperdinck drops the sword and goes and sits down, right? The coward beneath the facade comes out. And just as a natural thing, because of the costume, I took the tail of the costume and tucked it under me as I sat down. And Rob came over to me and thought, I think that's a little over the top. Can you not do that this time? And we did it the other way. And then he said, let's do it again and do it your way. And that's the take he kept.
Really?
Yeah. And it's funny, but it's situational funny.
Right.
It's not,
Again, one of these movies where you're doing it, you're like, this is special. Again, did you feel that with this one?
We knew that this was a great script. We all loved the script. I'd read the book like 20 years before, and I just flipped over the book. And we all knew that it was a great script. The casting was just, out of this world. And Rob's take on it was obviously exactly the right tone all the way through. It's the same. I mean, it's actually similar in Fright Night, in that you have fun with the genre, but you don't make fun of it.
Right.
You don't look at the audience and wink and say, we're having fun with this, aren't we, folks? You play it totally straight.
Right. That will kill it. The other way will kill it.
Yeah.